At LinkedIn, we know hiring is a big deal for your small business. Sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming. LinkedIn uses data that you can't find anywhere else to give you the best candidates, all so you can feel confident you're hiring the best person for the job. And even a little hiring bliss. See why 86% of small businesses who post a job on LinkedIn get a qualified candidate within a day. Post a job for free at linkedin.com/achieve. LinkedIn, your next great hire is here.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses. I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode number 721 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. It is me here, Donald Wine. I'm your host for this episode. Jason is in disguise on his way to his nice vacation that he's going to be on for the next 10 or so days. He actually didn't tell me when he was coming back. So for now, he is gone. I have Scott Rich with me because Scott Rich is still here. And Scott Rich, good to have you back on the show. I don't know if you listened to the last episode, but this episode we're talking about real stuff now. There's no more hyperbole or hypothesizing.
You know, I consciously didn't because it just would have been too painful. You know.
Well, yeah.
And to be fair, I think all Duke fans can blame you and Jason for putting that episode out into the world yesterday, so that it jinxed into creation what we have to talk about today.
I was the curmudgeon of the episode. Have you not seen social media? Everyone was like, Donald needs to lighten up. And this is why. Because we have to talk about the reality that Con Knippel has declared for the NBA draft. He is the first of who we expect to declare. He's the first one to actually make it public. He made it public today. Obviously, there was the line of social media, first by him, then by Duke, then by John Shire. 14.4 points per game this year. He was second on the team. 4 rebounds a game, 2.7 assists per game, 1 steal per game. He averaged 40.6% from 3. He averaged 91.4% from the line, and he averaged 120% in hustle points. One of the great seasons that we have ever had by Duke freshman. He's projected as a high lottery pick somewhere between 6 and 10. And Scott, as I turn to you for thoughts on Con Knippel, he's going to the NBA draft. Whoever drafts him is getting a winner.
So, to take you guys a little bit behind the scenes here, one of the benefits/punishments I get for being on the show every once in a while is I text with Jason and Donald a little bit, is where, over the summer when we don't have much news going on and as we're watching games. And I distinctly recall last summer at a certain point, Jason sort of texted us on our chain and basically said, guys, Con Knippel's the 5th starter. And I distinctly remember saying, well, that's not good, or something to that effect. Because I don't think anyone outside of the Knippel family and Durham, North Carolina, and John Shire's office could have projected what Con Knippel did at this time last year. At this time last year, Con Knippel let's be honest, he was the 6th guy in a historic 6-man recruiting class. He was the guy that no one besides people who really follow high school basketball, who really watched the tape, thought was going to do much of anything on this year. And then all of a sudden, the hype train built steadily but surely all throughout the summer. That footage started coming out where we said, whoa, this kid's got something. But even as that hype train built, there was a constant skepticism around Con Knippel that, oh, he's not going to be able to guard at the ACC level. Oh, what position does he play? His body type, he's not going to have the athleticism. He doesn't have the raw jump off the screen traits. And that didn't mean a gosh darn thing because Con Knippel knows how to play basketball and he knows how to win basketball games. And it was just such a joy watching him on that constant upward trajectory from, the time he committed to Duke to, winning the ACC tournament MVP to arguably being our most consistent player in our March run to the Final Four. I hope he will be remembered as fondly as Cooper Flagg will be. I think he will be by most Duke fans. I think the casual Duke fan might not, and I think that's a shame because any other year, Con Knippel had one of the best years for Duke freshmen. Arguably, top 5, top 10 if we make one of those lists when you need content over the summer. I think his season ranks up there for freshmen. And the fact that he did all that while being Robin to Cooper Flagg's back man just makes it all the more incredible. All of those are traits, by the way, that every NBA team should be salivating for. You're not getting a generational talent at the 6 to 10 range, but if you can get the Robin to your team's Batman, you're going to go far. And that's the floor of what Con Knippel is going to be in the NBA. That's the absolute floor. And so that's a pretty darn good pick when you're picking in the early to late lottery.
You mentioned last year around this time, and he was in a lot of the All-Star games. He was in the top 10 in his class, but he was the unknown, right? We knew about obviously Cooper Flag
Wasn't
was
even in
founding.
the top 10 in his class. He was like 19 in the
Oh
last
yeah, I'm sorry, like top 20.
ranking.
Yeah, he's like top 20, but still he was ahead of like a Darren Harris, right? He was ahead. I
Yes.
think he was around the same number as not Pat, but I'm thinking of somebody else who
Yeah,
Slim
him and
was down
Isaiah
there
sort of were in the same
in
15
the
to
same.
20 range.
Yes. And so when you thought about we had heard about how prolific a scorer Isaiah Evans could be in high school, right? He dropped 60 in a game and had people approaching me in the airport going, "Yo, this dude Slim is going to be the guy," right? And we're thinking, okay, we got all these guys coming in. If Con Knippel can't really play defense, and I think also we had heard that he was a great shooter, but we were also as fans, understandably, a little bit gun shy about having another shooter on our team because we had just had TJ Power, we had just had Jaden Shoot, and they didn't pan out the way we thought they would be. And so we're kind of thinking, okay, if we can, get this guy who can shoot a couple of threes and kind of bide his time until he learns how to play defense, we're going to be solid. And then halfway during the summer, we hear that this dude is the best player in practice, and we're like, you into Duke practice with all the other Duke players. He became a guy who, and his dad game we kind of joked about, but we're like, hey, dad games work, right? The fact that he wasn't the most athletic, the fact that he wasn't the quickest, there were times this year where he felt like the most athletic guy on the floor. There were times this year where he felt like he was the quickest guy on the floor because he was beating everybody to the spot that he wanted to get to. And the fact that he was not really demonstrating a old man dad game, but more a physical game when he needed to was incredible. We saw that during the year. During the ACC tournament, I hope people do not forget the fact that this dude turned on a switch when Cooper Flag went down, when Malik Brown went down. He said, "I will be the guy. I will run the offense. I will be point guard at times if we need to. I will help lead this team to an ACC championship, a tournament championship," and did that, being the MVP of the ACC tournament. And I think when we look at the only thing that I wish this story could have been complete is when he said on the stage, we got 2 down, 1 to go, and we all hoped that one would come, and we were just shy of that. But I look back at his year and think of how incredible an arc that he created for himself, like you said, through his hard work. When his mom was on a couple weeks ago, she kind of said, yeah, he looked at the TV and said, I can do that, and made a point to do what it was necessary to become the type of player that will very, very soon hear his name be called by Commissioner Adam Silver and one of the top, hopefully top 10 picks of the NBA draft. So I'm really, really proud of the fact that he was able to kind of put this into his mind that he could do this and went out and did it. But in the meantime, was the consummate teammate. Everyone loved him. He became a fan favorite alongside so many others. And when we think about how fondly we will remember this team, yes, we'll talk about Cooper Flagg, but Con Knipple is probably the next guy that we're going to think about and reference when it comes to this team. And it's in no small part due to the fact that he brought it every single night. The amount of court burns he probably has on his arms from diving for loose balls every single night is something that we love, we always appreciate, and we will always remember.
John Shire has talked a lot in his 3 years about how he wants competitiveness and he wants players who want to come in and earn their role and compete. And that's something that in the era of the transfer portal, in the era of every high school prospect wants to be guaranteed minutes right off the gate, that's something that's, a little bit of a dying breed. One of the things that I think Con Knipple is going to do for this Duke program, his legacy, is going to be showing every high school recruit that it doesn't matter what you're ranked in those high school rankings. If you come in and earn your time at Duke, you are going to play. John Shire is going to play the players who are the best in practice and who earn those minutes. This was not there are other programs who would have slotted Isaiah Evans in because he was the slightly higher rated recruit, and that would satisfy the message boards and satisfy the recruiting prognosticators and the pundits, and that would have just been the default, and we would have gone from there. John Shire said, nope, Con Knipple's playing like the best player in this team. He's going to get 30 minutes of the game. You guys earn your minutes, and you guys best him in practice. And we saw that throughout the year. Isaiah Evans came back, and he earned his minutes. We saw spurts of Darren Harris doing the same thing. Pat Ngongba did the same thing, where he not only, he was ready to go when Malik went out, and then earned minutes and earned more and more minutes throughout the season. Con Knipple is a perfect John Shire recruiting success story. And I think we're gonna see more of that. I think every once in a while we're gonna see these Duke commitments where we just go, him? And every time that happens, I hope we get on here and we say, hey guys, let John Shire cook. John Shire knows these guys. John Shire was on Kyle Filipowski when he was in the 40s. Before people forget, before he was a top 5 recruit, he was, just another middling 4-star that ascended up the rankings. Mm-hmm. Con Knipple was the same thing. Nick Hamenia, because we know the K is silent now. Uh-huh. He was on the same trajectory. So John Shire has a knack for finding these guys, and he has a knack for giving them the confidence to come in and earn a role at Duke. It's not about whether you are a McDonald's All-American. It's not about how many stars you had. It's about what you do when you get to Durham and you put on that Duke uniform. And that's something that we're still learning who John Shire is as a coach. We forget it's only been 3 freaking years that this man has been not even Duke's coach, been a head coach, period. One thing we know about John Shire is if you earn your time, you're going to get that time. And I think that's a testament to John for coaching that way in an era that doesn't necessarily reward that. And it's a testament for Con to embracing that challenge and saying, I'm going to go to Duke and earn minutes. I'm not going to go to all the sort of, middle tier Power 5 schools that were the first group that gave him offers, because he knew he could do it. John knew he could do it, and they were both proven right.
I like the fact that you mentioned the fact that his trajectory was kind of to the point where when he was offered and kind of even when he accepted and went and declared for Duke, it was kind of like Happy Gilmore. Who the hell is Happy Gilmore? Right? Like
it came out. I remember it came out of complete nowhere. We were there were all these 5-star guys, and I forget the exact names at the time that we were in on, and people were sort of like, why are we taking this guy who's not gonna see the floor for a few years? But that's why we're sitting here talking, and that's why John Shire makes the big bucks.
Well, we were also like, when we went on to try and, and discuss his game, we were like, okay, how do we pronounce this dude's last name? Knipple. Jason, no, it really is Knipple. I've watched like 80. He said it himself, Knipple. Okay, now we have a Knipple pipeline potentially brewing because there's 4 more that are
I will
that
say
are in the
one
pipeline.
of the greatest compliments I can give to Khan is that by the end of the season, my wife, who is not a Duke basketball head, but sits there and humors me as I watch games, she was pronouncing Khan Knippel correctly because
Hmm.
she she was noticing this kid who didn't really look like he should be doing all this good stuff, but lo and behold, he was. So, Khan, you made my wife a believer. I'm not sure you care, but to me, that might be the greatest compliment I can give.
And I mean, look, he had many opportunities, right? Like throughout a game, you heard his name dozens of times because of the play on the floor. But I also think back to again when his mom was on this show, he was basically telling his brothers like, "No, you're not coming to the Final Four because you need to get on the court. Don't miss basketball to watch basketball because these are opportunities for you to get better." That is the sort of mentality that every player should have. Now, we may disagree and think, yes, let your brothers go watch you play in the Final Four, right? Like, but the mentality of always working hard and him kind of embracing this Kaizen method that they were deploying as a team with getting 1% better every day. He was like 1% is not enough for me. I need to get better than that because that is going to help me become the best player I can possibly be. It puts him in this position where now he can go to the next level and realize a dream of playing in the NBA and playing hopefully for a team for a very long time.
Last thing I will say to put a period on Khan, and it's a shame we have to put a period on his Duke career, but that's the way it works. Khan Knippel is the best Duke interview in decades. And by best Duke interview, I mean worst interview possible. Khan Knippel, like no one I've seen, arguably since John Shire. And I say this, I wrote for the Duke Chronicle. I was in the locker room with John when we won the title in 2010. I would interview John Shire in the locker room and he would say nothing of importance, but speak for about 5 minutes and say nothing. Con Knippel, every post game interview, he just gave the perfect Duke media trained quote of nothingness. And I couldn't help but chuckle every time because I was like, I know exactly who told you to say that exact thing, which means nothing but get you out of this interview just quick enough so you can go back to the locker room. So NBA media, whatever team he gets to, he's not going to need any media training. Khan is ready to give the 5 second media bite of nothing and head to the locker room at halftime.
And allow you to replay it on the broadcast. But and people go, oh, that's very lucid by Guy Knippel.
No
What did he
bulletin
say?
board materials coming out of
Yeah.
Con Knippel's
What?
mouth. That I would put money on that. Con Knippel is never going to give any bulletin board material during his
Yeah.
NBA
Both
career.
both teams played hard. That is what he they won. Both teams played hard. Good game. But again, a tremendous season for Con Knippel. We wish him the best of luck. We're absolutely rooting for him on his next chapter in the NBA. We're going to pause right here because on the other side, we got another Duke Blue Devil we're going to talk about. He may be leaving, but he is leaving a legacy in the form of on the court and in the classroom.
Hey, Duke fans, make this your best season yet with a nutritious 2-minute meal from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want.
Jason, the meals are terrific too, and they arrive fresh and ready to eat, which gives you more time to get outside and enjoy this lovely spring weather that we're having. They have 45 weekly menu options, so you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals, whether it's satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, or premium dinners. And I enjoy the fact that they're filling, and I don't feel the need to snack between meals.
Yeah, that's always good for your waistline. Get started, everybody, at factormeals.com/DukeBB50off. Use that code DukeBB50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Again, that is code DukeBB50off at factormeals.com for 50% off plus free shipping.
We are back, and we turn our attention to yet another, unfortunately for us, departing Blue Devil, and that is Sion James. But we are talking about him in the positive today because a couple of days ago it was announced that he is one of 15 players who was voted to the second team academic All-American team for Division I as selected by college sports communicators. Now, this is important because Duke players have been named academic All-Americans 21 times, but he's just the 13th player in Duke history to get named to this team. He is the first in almost 10 years. The last person to do it, Grayson Allen, back in 2016. I'll give you quickly the list of Duke players that have won this award. Some of these guys are on this list a couple of times. Jay Buckley, Dick DeVinzio, Gary Melchione, Bob Fleischer, Mike Jaminski, Jim Spanarkel, Quinn Snyder, Shane Battier, Mike Dunleavy, Greg Paulus, Mason Plumlee, Grayson Allen, Sion James. That is your list of academic All-Americans. We talk about him in the positive and also kind of in the negative because he announced his goodbye earlier this week as he, again, we have tried to find some eligibility for him. We cannot find anymore. He has exhausted it all. And he had us all in our feels about his season at Duke. But what a season for Sion James. How lucky, Scott, were we to have him on our team for this year? And not just on the court, but what he has done with his charity, with his foundation, his academics, just the awards that he's won for being in the classroom and just being the model student athlete. We're just so lucky to have him.
Yeah. For everyone who is nostalgic for the bygone era of the quote unquote student athlete, which is, let's be honest, going away if it hasn't been gone for a little while now. Sion James was that. And not only was he an incredible person in the community, an incredible person in the classroom, but Duke doesn't make the Final Four without Sion James.
Nope.
Duke does not, we forget because, again, we went on this incredible run since Thanksgiving. But that turnaround was cemented by Jon Scheyer, again, taking the competition and saying, Caleb Foster, you're not playing up to your potential right now. Sion James is playing better. Sion's going to be in the starting lineup. And he took that and he ran with it, just like Khan did. And again, slightly different situations. But again, Sion came in not expecting minutes, wanting the opportunity to earn those minutes. And he said so. He had some great interviews where he said, I wanted the opportunity that if I was going to be the best player, I would get those minutes. That wasn't coming in where I was, shoehorned into the six-man role. And that's exactly what Jon Scheyer gave him, and he took that and ran with it. He's the type of guy that he stands out when he's on a basketball court. I think I still wish you guys in the stats game had done it over under Sion James looked like a linebacker references, because whatever number it would have been the over.
We were going to do number of muscles counted, but that kept growing. So there was something that we couldn't actually quantify for the stats game.
And it's so amazing that a guy who was that impactful could serve his complementary role so well. You look at him on the basketball court and you go, oh my God. But then he does all the little things, and he did all the little things all year to make his teammates better. And he made a point in the media availability in March of saying that was my role and that's what the team needed, and I embraced that. And that's going to earn him an NBA contract. And that's something that I don't think all that many people expected. Yes, he did some workouts last year before he decided to come to Duke, but that was sort of, a fringe thing. Sion James is in all likelihood going to be a second-round draft pick. And I talked about how, Con Knippel was a little bit of a Duke success story that Jon Scheyer can use moving forward. Sion James is the same darn thing. If you're looking for, if you're a guy who is at a mid-major and you think you have a next gear and you want to go somewhere to show it, you come to Duke and Jon Scheyer shows you Sion James's tape and says, I'm going to give you the opportunity to claim a role and be what Sion James was, and look what he's doing now. I think that, again, the highest compliment I think we can give him on the court is that despite all of the attention that went to Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel and all those guys, Duke doesn't win the ACC without Sion James. Duke doesn't win the ACC tournament without Sion James. Duke doesn't make the Final Four without Sion James. And I think that is the highest compliment we can give that young man who's going to go on to do great things.
Well, first of all, I'm glad that to this date, right, it's very early on in his career, but Sion James forced John Shire into the most important answer that he has given as a head coach when he asked him, "Hey, I know I'm not supposed to be starting here. I'm coming in to be a particular role, but if I compete and I am out competing other guys in my position, will I get the opportunity to start?" And John Shire said, "Yes." If he does not say yes, Sion James does not come to Duke University. We do not have the season that he gave us. And I think again, he just like Khan in a way, right? He took that initiative and said, "Okay, if I want to start, I'm going to compete for it. I'm going to earn it, and I'm going to hold on to it." That man was 30-2 as a starter, 30 wins, 2 losses as a starter. And like you said, really turned around our season. And there's a clear line of when he entered the lineup, how great we became and becoming one of the all-time great basketball teams there has been in college. And so when you think about the transfers and of course, in the portal era, we've had a lot, but us who have been around forever remember that there was only like what 6 or 7 that for a while that Coach K had until we got into this portal era. But he's going to be looked at as one of the best transfers that we've ever had. Him, like a Ryan Young, a Theo John, a Seth Curry,
Rodney
Dante
Hood.
Jones, Rodney Hood, right? He's going to be thought of in that mind frame of how much of an impact he made on this program. Not just the team, not just the season, but this program. Like you said, he is going to be a model example for the coaching staff to use for future recruits of this is what you need to do to play basketball here at Duke University. This is how you need to compete. This is who you should be striving to be like. And I think that's, again, as great a compliment as one could have. Will he get drafted? That's the question. He should be drafted. I know we're biased, but he should be drafted. He should have that opportunity.
In the era of the combine and everyone pouring over measurements and all those things, the second Sion James gets to the combine and he goes through those drills and he gets measured, there's going to be a team that says, "Oh boy, I'll take this grown man over a 19-year-old who has quote unquote upside." You know what you're getting with Sion James. If you draft Sion James, you can put him in your rotation as the 9th man to play 5-10 minutes a game tomorrow. And that's what teams are looking for in the second round. And if they don't, if someone doesn't take him, that'll be a mistake.
And look, he averaged 8.6 points per game, 4.2 rebounds per game, 3.0 assists per game. He shot 51.6% from the floor. He shot 41.3% from three. He shot 81% from the line. He had incredible defense, sometimes locking down the best player on the other team. Those stats don't quantify the team aspect of things. He's not the guy that's needing to go out and get 25 points a game. He's not the guy to go out and demand 25 shots a game. He's the consummate team player. And on top of that, he had a 3.76 GPA. I need some Sion James in my life. That is how good a season he had for Duke. And again, academic All-American, only 12 other players in Duke history have ever been named to one of the 3 teams on the academic All-American. So really glad to see Sion James, Duke, on that list.
I think that Sion James is what you want, what you think of when you think of a student athlete. And in the era where it's very easy to be cynical and nihilistic about the state of college athletics and all these things, we got a year of Sion James, and God, we were lucky to have a year where that man was on our team. We're lucky to say that that man is a Duke Blue Devil forever. And again, in an era where people are wringing their hands about what NIL means and what transfers mean and all these things, there's been some great things that transfers have brought us to. Transfers brought us the story of Sion James, and we get that forever.
And the funny thing is I think it was just the other day he was on some podcast or some show, and they were asking about his NIL money. He said, "Hey, I turned down almost $1 million to come to Duke because I wanted the opportunity to get better as a player. I want the opportunity to win. I want the opportunity to try and compete for a national championship." And that was worth way more than the money. He is not the norm. We would wish we'd had more Sion James in that department, but that the idea that competition was what he strived for, that's what he sought. That's what he got, and the rewards are bountiful.
Again, Con and Sion are John Shire's recruiting pitch for the next 5 years. Yes, okay, maybe someone made him a pure dollar offer that was more, but I would put money on the value that Sion James got from being at Duke and upping his pro draft stock, even if it doesn't end up working out in the NBA, wherever he ends up going and playing for a long time, whatever network he has built for his charity work, for his other ambitions while at Duke. Okay, maybe that's worth a little more than a few $100,000 for one season. Sion James and Con Knipple, different ends of the spectrum, different ends of their careers, but I think are both going to be the sort of prototypical John Shire recruiting pitch for 5-10 years to come.
Absolutely. So I'm super glad that we were able to at least, kind of think back down memory lane about those two particular guys. We obviously will be back as more announcements come in. I would expect that more announcements are coming later on this week. So we will be back to react to them as we get along. Scott, as always, thank you so much for joining me. Jason might be back. He might not. We'll see. We'll see what happens when he lands. Maybe he decides to stay there for a while, but we'll have him back very, very soon. Scott will also be back, I'm sure, very, very soon as we move forward. But until then, this has been episode number 721. This is now the Duke Band. He's Scott. I'm Donald. Duke Band's playing us out, and they're taking us home. Godspeed, Sion, and Con.